What we saw with Bitcoin at the beginning of 2024 could soon happen with Ripple XRP. You might know how it goes. Rumors start circulating, and sometimes there's more to them than you think. And that's exactly what's happening again right now. And I have to emphasize it once more. It's just a rumor, but the information we're getting strongly suggests that it could happen at any moment. And I'm telling you this as someone who has been in this industry for quite a while. And this is usually how it goes. First, we hear a rumor, and strangely enough, it often turns out to be true. It slowly seeps into the crypto news. Other developments happen, and suddenly the rumor becomes reality. It sounds confusing. Of course, especially if you've only been around for a few months. But maybe, if you've been around as long as I have, you just think, yeah, of course, that's how crypto hype works. Maybe you even remember the Bitcoin ETF or its introduction. There were months of speculation about it. And in the end, it worked out. Mainly thanks to Grayscale. The company already had something like trusts for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and even Ripple XRP before the official ETFs. It was basically the same product, just with different paperwork. Back then, institutional investors went straight there. And why did we even get the Bitcoin ETF in the first place? The US Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, kept brushing Grayscale off. At some point, Grayscale threatened, "If you say no one more time, we'll sue you." The SEC still said no, so Grayscale went to court and won. And then BlackRock also wanted a Bitcoin ETF, and that's how the Bitcoin ETF finally came about. Later on, Grayscale also submitted an application for an Ethereum ETF, and everyone thought it would go through. The SEC has no arguments against it. And now there's the rumor that Grayscale apparently wants to convert one of their trusts into a real XRP ETF. Sure, given the pattern of recent years, there could be something to it. But as always, nothing is certain until it's official. Still, the chances are good. History does tend to repeat itself. And I want to let you know that we are confident there will soon be an XRP ETF. But what's really bothering me right now is this one ETF that everyone keeps talking about, the one from BlackRock. I have no idea why BlackRock, of all companies, is getting so much attention.
The director of digital assets at BlackRock, this man here, Robert Mitchnick, predicted that XRP would reach a value of $92.91. This man here actually used to work at Ripple, As you can see on his LinkedIn profile, Robert Mitchnick was the Director of Digital Assets and Cryptocurrencies as well as DLTs at BlackRock in 2017. He was also employed at Ripple. He is responsible for driving BlackRock's digital asset strategy, including collaborating with internal business units to advance strategic initiatives related to distributed ledger technologies and digital assets. This involves developing and implementing strategies for assets like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP. Robert Mitchnick and Susan Athey jointly developed this framework to predict the future value of cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin and XRP. Robert Mitchnick, here as the head of crypto at BlackRock, worked on this report together with Susan Athey, who is also a board member at Ripple. And this report is extremely important because it reveals the future value of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and XRP. And they specifically mention XRP. In this report, 86 times. Yes, right here you can see that they present a high estimate for the future XRP price forecast, namely $32.91. That is based on many variables that we will discuss today. The high estimate is around 33 US dollars. The low estimate is 7 or 6 US dollars for XRP. According to the head of digital assets at BlackRock, this is his forecast for XRP in the coming years, both the low and the high estimate. So they mention XRP 86 times in this report. And I will show you everything you need to know about XRP in this report. Because this is really huge, guys. The fact that the head of cryptocurrencies at BlackRock, this man here who previously worked at Ripple, has written an entire report in which the future value of XRP is estimated at 33 US dollars. And that BlackRock is also buying XRP. This report states 32.99 US dollars. Yes. So that's more than 10 times, almost 15 times the current price.
You surely know all those videos and articles that say BlackRock basically owns the world. They hold shares in countless subsidiaries and somehow control everything. But so far, at least as of when I'm recording this video, BlackRock has not yet applied for an XRP ETF. And maybe you remember the fake BlackRock XRP ETF application from November 2023. That application is considered the first XRP ETF application. And BlackRock is right at the front line. And now the rumors are swirling that a BlackRock XRP ETF could come in June or July 2025. Maybe even as early as the end of May. And why is this suddenly a topic now? A few days ago, there was a secret meeting between BlackRock and the US Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC. The meeting was about restructuring their Ethereum ETF so that upon selling, you don't receive US dollars, but actual Ethereum directly into your wallet. Additionally, the ETF is apparently also supposed to enable staking. And the rumor also says that they discussed clear regulatory frameworks that would be necessary in order to launch an XRP ETF, to bring it to market. And this won't just affect XRP, but also other cryptocurrencies like Litecoin, for example. Now we have Solana, XRP, Ars, Bitcoin, and the management of Dogecoin and the management of others. I think those are the main entities that have true 33x spot Bitcoin ETFs ready. And then there are some futures-based products. But to really have a nice ecosystem, we need futures. So where do we stand with the altcoin futures and how? Are the issuers leaning on you to get them out so they can roll their products out? That's a great question. I think, for us, in addition to futures and options, we also have a family of reference rates covering 24 different coins and tokens, right? So we have these reference rates and all our products are cash settled. So theoretically, the plan is that we would eventually look to hopefully launch futures based on those reference rates. But before we do that, we really do need that regulatory clarity. Clarity, right? So we need to know that these underlying assets are considered commodities because we're regulated by the CFTC. The CFTC regulates commodity products. So we got some of that clarity, or more accurately, regulatory comfort earlier this year with some of the changes in the US administration, some of the changes that we're seeing at the regulatory level, and some of the cases that have been dropped against prominent firms. So that gave us some comfort regarding that. Solana, and also gave us some comfort regarding XRP. I think if you look at them, and incidentally XRP goes live on the 19th May, if you look at them, Bitcoin, Ether, Solana, XRP, taking out meme coins, taking out stable coins, that's covering revenue. And over at EDFA Presents show with on the market capital session of cryptocurrencies. So, do we have a lot of room left? Here's the crux of the matter. The Ripple versus SEC legal dispute is finally over. Back in February, it was already said that everything was settled. But then there was apparently still a 2-month period during which the US Securities and Exchange Commission could have pulled some tricks. But they didn't do that. And now Ripple only has to pay a fine of $50 million instead of the original $3 billion. And that means the path now seems clear. And already at the beginning of the year, there were rumors that BlackRock was planning an XRP ETF. And after this meeting with the US Securities and Exchange Commission, it could really happen soon. But I still don't understand why everyone is so fixated on BlackRock, as if there were no other players in this field. Brazil, as we could also see, is making enormous progress in the cryptocurrency sector. And there, we saw the launch of the world's first spot XRP ETF, all the way to the planning of their own stablecoin, and the adoption of a Bitcoin reserve strategy. And back to BlackRock. They didn't want to take any action until the legal process was finally over. And now it really truly is finished. But aside from this huge story, there's another point that I find super interesting. Namely, there's this one thing that keeps coming up. Rich people send each other signals telling them to invest, for example. And that's no secret. And most of the time, this is done through things that are accessible to the wealthy or that they use more frequently. Regular people, for instance, don't constantly read Forbes, Bloomberg, or CNBC. And just recently, an article appeared in Forbes. The timing was basically very specific, and Forbes was the first to write about an XRP spot ETF. I just thought, where is this coming from now? And if you take a closer look at the article, they talk about the advantages of such an ETF for retail investors. More liquidity in the market, better price discovery, transparency, institutions that could get involved, and so on. But here it comes now. I believe we are so close that BlackRock will apply for an XRP ETF. And remember, in March or April, we talked about the months of April, May, and June. You saw the price surge, that sense of excitement in crypto. May and June are the periods when already submitted XRP ETF applications could get the green light. Or maybe not, and currently there are almost 20 applications. That means the odds are in favor of at least 5 approvals, maybe even 10, And of course, some people dream of 17. Then XP would shoot up to $10 to $15 per XP. And honestly, that would be absolutely insane, but you still have to stay realistic. The market is mainly waiting for a signal from BlackRock, and here's my final thought on that. I wish the crypto world would continue to develop independently of such big players. We don't need BlackRock to legitimize our coins or their prices. That will happen anyway. Organically, but the fact is, BlackRock has already long been invested in XRP. And if you want to benefit from that, if you want to achieve financial freedom through crypto and Bitcoin, click the link in the description below the video. Watch the video, it's free. And you know, that's really one of those crazy things about crypto. Back then, people thought we were the only ones interested in this. But then it turned out that banks and large corporations had secretly been buying coins since around 2014, or maybe even earlier. In 2018, the first rumors surfaced that big players like BlackRock were getting into the business. But at that time, the market didn't react and no one really believed it. It wasn't until 2023, when the official applications for Bitcoin ETFs came in, that it suddenly became clear to everyone they've been involved for a long time. And do you think they just wake up one morning and say, hey, let's quickly invest in Bitcoin or establish a Bitcoin standard? They've been planning this for years. Such risky companies cannot simply rush into something that could collapse tomorrow. They know exactly what they're doing and have risk strategies that are 100 times more sophisticated than ours. And no, they're not just limiting themselves to ETFs. They hold coins through subsidiaries, sub-companies, and shell corporations all over the world. And many people don't believe that. And what we're seeing now are only the securitized products, which are also accessible to us. And with Ripple XRP, of course, they've probably been involved with Ripple long before it ever made headlines. And if BlackRock actually files for an XRP ETF, the price of Ripple XRP will skyrocket. And just take a look at the current situation. We're in the middle of the year, and if several of these kinds of applications get approved, things are going to get wild. XRP doesn't need much to climb back to second place among cryptocurrencies. Ethereum is doing well, but XRP currently has real momentum and will probably overtake Ethereum if this happens. And the Forbes article wasn't written for small investors. It's aimed at the big players who are only now realizing what's going on here.